What if the greatest college basketball team ever never got to finish what they started?
They had personality. They played with passion.
This is the story of the UNLV Runnin' Rebels, a team that didn't just win. They embarrassed opponents. They broke records. They changed what basketball looked like. And at the center of it all was Larry Johnson, a man who would become the #1 pick in the entire NBA draft. But right as they were building one of the most dominant dynasties in college basketball history, the NCAA stepped in, and what happened next is still debated to this day. How does a school in the middle of the Nevada desert become the most feared program in all of college basketball? Before Jerry Tarkanian arrived, UNLV didn't even have a basketball identity. Locals called it Tumbleweed Tech. It was a small commuter school with no winning tradition and almost no national profile. Tarkanian changed everything. He arrived in 1973 with a vision that nobody else in the sport had at the time. He didn't recruit the blue-chip kids that Duke and North Carolina were chasing. He went to the junior colleges, he went to the inner cities. He found players that other coaches had written off, and he turned them into something nobody could stop. His philosophy was built on speed and relentless defense. Full court pressure from the opening tip, a fast break on every possession, and an offense so up-tempo that by the time your lungs caught up, the game was already over. By the late 1980s, UNLV had already made 3 Final Fours. But the best was still coming, because in 1989, the pieces finally came together in a way that nobody had ever seen before. What does a dynasty actually look like when it's being built? At the center of it was Larry Johnson, 6'7", 230 pounds. A forward with the strength of a center, the footwork of a big man, and the speed of a wing. He could score inside, step out and shoot, and run the floor like he had somewhere to be. He wasn't just good, he was different. There was no mold for what he was. But he didn't carry this team alone. Stacy Augman, they called him Plastic Man because of those impossibly long arms, was one of the best defenders in college basketball. He didn't just guard you, he suffocated you. Greg Anthony was the engine, a transfer who ran the offense with intensity and toughness. He averaged nearly 7.5 assists a game and was one of the best floor generals in the country. And Anderson Hunt, a scorer from Detroit who had ice in his veins in big moments. He would become the most important player in the biggest game of the year. Together, they weren't just talented. They were dangerous, and in the 1989-90 season, they became unstoppable. What does a team look like when it's playing above the level of everyone around it? UNLV finished that season 35-5, not ranked #1 to start the year. But by tournament time, everyone knew what they were looking at. They scored more than 100 points per game. They ran through the tournament like it was a scrimmage. But no stat captures what they were. Their style was a punishment. You didn't just lose to UNLV. You got worn down by them. Minute by minute, possession by possession, they broke teams psychologically before the final score ever reflected it. And then came the championship game. UNLV versus Duke, a program built on tradition, coaching, and discipline, against a program built in a Las Vegas parking lot from players nobody else wanted. What happened next wasn't just a win. It was a statement that echoed through every locker room in college basketball. What happens when an unstoppable force meets a team that simply isn't ready? From the opening minutes, Duke had no answer. UNLV attacked from everywhere. They pushed the pace. They pressed relentlessly. They scored on the break. They scored in the half court. They scored in transition before Duke even crossed half court. Anderson Hunt couldn't miss. Larry Johnson was a nightmare. Scoring, rebounding, controlling the game in every way that didn't show up on a single stat line. Duke had Christian Laettner. They had Bobby Hurley. They had Phil Henderson. It didn't matter. By halftime, it was already a blowout. By the second half, it was an embarrassment. Final score 103-73, a 30-point win in the national championship, the largest margin of victory in the history of the title game, a record that still stands today. UNLV didn't just cut down the nets, they served notice that something had changed in college basketball. So what happens when the most dominant team in college basketball comes back and decides to be better? Most championship teams lose key guys. They deal with the hangover, the hunger fades. UNLV did the opposite. Larry Johnson came back for his senior year. Greg Anthony came back. Stacy Augman came back. Anderson Hunt came back. Think about that. 3 players who would all go in the top 12 of the next NBA draft chose to return to college for a chance at something bigger than money. That kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. The 1990-91 Runnin' Rebels picked up where they left off. Ranked number 1 in the preseason, still number 1 every single week all season long. They went 27-0 in the regular season. They won the Big West tournament. They entered the NCAA tournament undefeated. 34 wins, 0 losses. The win streak they were riding went all the way back to the previous year. 45 games without a loss, the 4th longest streak in the history of Division I basketball. They were outscoring opponents by nearly 27 points a game. People weren't asking if UNLV would win the championship again, they were asking by how many. And then, something started happening off the court. Something that would change everything. Why would the most powerful governing body in college sports choose this exact moment to focus on UNLV? Tarkanian had been in a war with the NCAA for over a decade. It wasn't a secret. The organization had investigated him at Long Beach State. They followed him to UNLV. At one point during the 1990 championship season, the NCAA visited their campus 11 times and suspended 10 different players at various points throughout the year. 11 visits in one season. After UNLV won the title, the NCAA moved to enforce sanctions against the program. Punishment tied to violations they claimed dated back years, including questionable connections involving a gambler who had previously been convicted of sports bribery. Initially, the NCAA banned UNLV from the 1991 tournament entirely, but here's where it gets interesting. The university fought back. Tarkanian threatened to sue again. And the NCAA, perhaps aware that a tournament without the defending champion was bad for business, backed down. The compromise, UNLV could defend their title in 1991, but they would be banned from postseason play and television the following season. It looked like a win. UNLV got their shot, but the pressure had been building all year. The scrutiny, the investigations, the distraction of knowing their program was under siege. And whether it mattered on the court, that's the question that still haunts this story. Because the rematch was set, and this time, Duke was ready. Could anyone actually stop them? April 1991, the national semifinal, UNLV versus Duke, the rematch everyone had been waiting for. And from the start, this game felt nothing like the last one. Duke had spent an entire year studying what went wrong. Their coaching staff actually debated whether to even watch the film from the blowout. They didn't want to reinforce those memories. Instead, they built a new game plan. Slow the pace, force half-court possessions, take away the transition. For the first time all season, UNLV looked human. The game was tight throughout. Every possession mattered. Duke refused to fold. And then, with UNLV's season on the line, Greg Anthony, their floor leader, their engine, fouled out with more than 3 minutes still to play. The momentum shifted. Duke led by 2 in the final seconds. UNLV pushed the ball. Anderson Hunt, the same Anderson Hunt who couldn't miss in the championship game a year earlier, rose up for a desperation three-pointer. The ball hit the back of the rim. Bobby Hurley grabbed the rebound. Final score, Duke 79, UNLV 77. The 45-game win streak was over. The undefeated season was gone. And the dynasty, never got to finish. Just like that, 2 points, 1 missed shot, one of the greatest teams in college basketball history was done. Was this just a loss, or was it the end of something that never should have ended? On paper, it's a 2-point game. It happens. But the full picture is harder to ignore. UNLV played that entire season with a sword hanging over their heads. Investigations, sanctions, the knowledge that even if they won, the program would be serving a punishment the following year. After the Final Four loss, the pressure only grew. UNLV's president eventually forced both the athletic director and Jerry Tarkanian himself to resign. Tarkanian, the man who built the program from nothing, who won over 500 games at that school, who turned Tumbleweed Tech into a national champion, was pushed out. He later sued the NCAA and won $2.5 million in a 1998 settlement. But what he couldn't win back was what UNLV had in those 2 seasons. Larry Johnson went first overall in the 1991 NBA draft to the Charlotte Hornets. He became a 2-time All-Star, a commercial icon, and one of the most recognizable players of the early 1990s. Stacy Augman went 9th. Greg Anthony went 12th, 3 top 12 picks off 1 college roster. That team had the talent to dominate college basketball for as long as they wanted to stay. But they didn't get that chance, because for one historic year, the Runnin' Rebels weren't just the best team in college basketball. They were the most dominant team anyone had ever seen. It all comes down to one thing. If there are no investigations, no sanctions hanging over the program, no Greg Anthony fouling out in the final minutes, does Anderson Hunt's shot fall? Does UNLV become back-to-back champions? Does this dynasty run for 3, 4, 5 years? Do we talk about them the same way we talk about UCLA? The same way we talk about dynasties that got to finish what they started? We'll never know. What we do know is this: the 1990 UNLV Runnin' Rebels still hold the record for the largest blowout in national championship history. The 1991 team is still considered one of the best teams never to win a title. Their 45-game win streak is still the 4th longest in Division I history. And Jerry Tarkanian, the man the NCAA spent years trying to break, is in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. They didn't just play basketball differently, they made the whole sport pay attention. And for one brief moment in Las Vegas, nobody could touch them.